Hey, I'm John Cannell, and today on Preppy Kitchen we're making a decadent chocolatey mud pie. So let's get started. First off, set your oven to 350 so it's nice and hot. And now you want to grab about 25 chocolate sandwich cookies, aka Oreos, and pop them right into your food processor, or a big bag if you're going to crush them. We're going to finely crush these. Once your cookies are finely crushed, we're gonna transfer this to a bowl and add some butter in to bind it together and make it even more rich. Right now we're gonna add a 1/4 cup or 56 grams of melted butter in and just kind of drizzle that in and work it together until you have a wet, crumbly mixture. If you haven't had a mud pie lately and you want a refresher, there's a chocolate crust, there's a brownie layer, there is a chocolate pudding layer on top of that, with a whipped cream topping and shaved chocolate. It is a chocolate lover's dream come true, and making it from scratch at home, it's gonna be 1,000 times better than anything store-bought. Some people have asked if you need to remove the cream from the Oreos before you process, and no, you don't. That's part of the recipe. It's gonna help bind everything together. Honestly, using your clean hands is the best way to get this worked together. Once your mixture looks like wet sand from a lava beach, you're gonna pop this into your pie dish and shape it up. Now grab a flat bottomed glass or a measuring cup and we're going to just make a home for our pie to live in. A home of chocolate cookies. Create a flat well and then gradually start moving some of the crumbs up to the side of your dish. Once you have the general shape, you can get to pressing. So use your index finger to press the top of the crust down to form that lip. Don't worry if you get some little bald spots at the bottom, we're gonna fix that later. Just concentrate on the side first. By the way, if you like my videos, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I have 2 new recipes every single week, shorts, and there's always something delicious on the horizon. My crust is all pressed together. Right now it's time to pop it into the oven for 10 minutes, and while that bakes, we're gonna start our brownie layer. In you go. Towards the end of your bake, we're gonna add 2 ounces of bittersweet chocolate. I want to give this a nice chop and we're going to melt this and make basically a ganache with some butter. You want to give your chocolate a fine chop so that it melts really quickly. If you had a couple giant pieces hanging out, you'd be like stirring and stirring and stirring, and you'd be tempted to microwave the chocolate and butter for longer, which would burn the chocolate. So small is the way to go. Okay, that looks pretty nice. I will always say, this recipe is yours. I'm giving you the framework to make it work, but you can always add in flavors you like. You could add a handful of Andes mints and chop those in as well, or a couple drops of peppermint extract for a little chocolate minty situation. To my chocolate, I'm adding a 1/4 cup or 56 grams of cubed butter. I only cubed it so it would melt faster. We're gonna pop this into a microwave in 30-second bursts, stirring in between for about 2 minutes in total. This actually melted up in 1.5 minutes, so fast. Now, in a large bowl, I'm gonna add 2 large room temperature eggs, as well as 1/3 cup or 66 grams of granulated sugar. Sprinkle that right in, grab a whisk, and we're gonna mix this up just until it's nice and combined. If you are making actual brownies, not a mud pie, you would do this basically with a hand mixer until it was mixed. You want to dissolve the sugar completely, and that's how you get that crackly, glossy brownie top. This, however, will be a layer underneath some chocolate pudding, so don't worry about that. Just mix it up. Okay, now we're gonna whisk in our warm melted chocolate. The chocolate's not screaming hot, so you don't have to worry about the eggs cooking, but it's always a nice idea just to drizzle and whisk anyways. It's a good habit. And as usual, get it all out of the bowl. You want to eat this delicious stuff, not feed it to your drain. Mix, 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 mix. This looks so good already. Whoa. Now we're gonna whisk in 2 tablespoons of cocoa powder. It's your choice if you want to use natural or Dutch processed. Either is gonna be fine. Mix that in. 1/8 teaspoon of salt, and a small blessing or 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla. Just a little stingy drop. Mix this up. And this is glorious. To hold this together, we need a scant 2 tablespoons of flour. So sprinkle that in as you whisk. I don't normally scoop flour, but in this case it's fine. It's so little. Mix it just until the flour disappears. And now it's time to grab our cooled crust and pour this in. It's fine, by the way, if the crust is slightly warm. It does not have to be completely room temperature or cooled, just not screaming hot when you pour this in. Give this a little shimmy just so it goes to the edges. Give this a big shimmy. This is ready to go into the oven, 350 for about 20 minutes until it's puffed and set. Don't worry about the puffing, it'll calm down as it cools. In you go. Once your brownie layer is cool, it's time to start this easy, delicious, silky chocolate pudding. Grab 3.5 ounces of bittersweet chocolate. I'm gonna cut this into small pieces because it will be melting. And by the way, if you're like, I like chocolate, all this sounds delicious, but I don't have a lot of time on my hands, even for this easy recipe, just make the chocolate pudding. Put it into cups and you will be astonished by how delicious it is compared to store-bought stuff. Totally different. You want the chocolate in small pieces so it really melts evenly and quickly. Now in a smaller heat-proof bowl, we're gonna add 2 egg yolks. We do not need the whites for this recipe, so those can get set aside and you can pop them into your omelet tomorrow. And 2. Mix these up just to loosen them. Now, in a medium saucepan, we're gonna combine some delicious things, starting with 3/4 cup or 150 grams of granulated sugar. 2 tablespoons of cornstarch along with the egg yolks will give us that silky pudding consistency. And for some contrast, a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. The salt will really help you taste the chocolate. Whisk this together. Now we're gonna whisk in 1.5 cups or 360 mils of whole milk. Just drizzle it in as you whisk. This will prevent clumps and just give you like that nice slurry you need to start with. There we go. It's really just the beginning where you kind of need to drizzle and whisk. After the first half goes in, you're golden. Okay. Now we're gonna place this over medium-high heat, whisking frequently so nothing burns until it's thickened, which will be about 5 minutes. But everyone's cooktop is different, so make sure that you're like very mindful of the actual consistency. I'll show you what it looks like. So once this is on heat, you're gonna see, oh, nothing's happening, I'm whisking and nothing's happening. And then in a few seconds, it starts to thicken and it's done. So even though it seems like nothing's happening, just keep an eye on it. As you whisk, you're really frothing up the milk, but you'll notice the bubbles change right as it thickens. They become larger and burpier. The change is happening, come see this. Here you can see, those are the burpy bubbles we're talking about. With a wooden spoon, you can see it coats the back. Right now, we need to temper that mixture, which means we're gonna add a little bit of hot stuff in there to warm it up, and then we're gonna dump the rest in. So grab 1/2 cup of your thickened milk mixture. So drizzle this in as you whisk. We're doing this because if we just dumped the hot milk in, we might scramble the eggs, which would not be silky, custardy pudding. It would be, not great. Now we're gonna grab the hot milk mixture and whisk in our warmed egg yolk mixture. Whisk, 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 and just drizzle it in. If you've ever made a pastry cream, this seems very familiar to you because it's almost the exact same step. The cornstarch and egg yolks are working together to make that silky texture. Our cornstarch is activated, but now we have to cook the egg yolks over heat. So we're gonna pop this back onto the stove, and basically you're just whisking constantly for that 2 to 3 minutes, making sure that you are hitting the corner of your pan. This is where the burning happens. So you whisk from the center to the outside and then go back in. That's how it should be. Wow, wow, like that. You can see very quickly it starts bubbling up. They're big burpy bubbles and it's thickening further. So just with a little bit of whisking, you're done. So let's take it off heat. Now, it's time to add in our chocolate, so dump that in, along with 2 tablespoons of cubed butter. This is basically a chocolate creme patissiere, so delicious. We're gonna whisk this together just until everything is melty and amazing. A little bit of butter goes such a long way from taking a custard to ho-hum to just amazing. It changes the way the flavors melt on your mouth. I also want 1 teaspoon of vanilla, just for a little extra flavor. Whisk that in. And I'm just looking to make sure, oh my God, oh, the vanilla. I'm just waiting to make sure all of the butter is melted through, the chocolate melted right away. It's time to grab your partially assembled pie, pour that pudding in. Do not eat it with a spoon right now, definitely not acceptable. Even though it'd be delicious. And no one would know. Kind of optional, but just smooth it out into a nice layer. We're gonna let this cool at room temperature for about 20 minutes. Then we'll refrigerate it uncovered for about 4 hours to overnight until it is nice and set. It needs a little bit of time, but it is well worth it. Setting it aside. I'm so excited. Our pie has set, which means we can add the toppings and wrap this up. Because I want to eat some. So right now I have a comically large bar of chocolate that I like to shave. I like using this because the little ones always snap and it's so close to my fingers. I don't like that. You can choose to garnish your pie with shaved chocolate, chopped pecans, or leave it plain. You could even add Oreo crumbs if you want. There we go. That's more than enough. Set this aside, and now we're gonna whip up some cream. Get your stand mixer or a big bowl and a hand mixer. Into my bowl, I'm adding 1.5 cups of cold, heavy cream. And if you ever wonder, like, oh, why isn't my cream mixing up? Some brands just aren't great for mixing, it's true. They have additives in them. And also, if it's a hot day, if your bowl and your beater are hot, it's not great. So you can always feel free to chill the bowl and the whisk and then have it all ready to come together. Of course, I want a kiss of sweetness, so 3 tablespoons of granulated sugar. An optional addition would be a teaspoon of vanilla. I'm not gonna use that today. There's enough flavors going on in the cake, so this could be just like a nice little light whipped cream moment. Start it off low, move to high, and then we're just going to get this to be the perfect soft peak. It's my mixer babushka. But you should keep an eye on it because it'll overmix in a trice and be butter. My one other thing is you should never mix whipped cream until it's at the stage you want. Mix it until it's almost there, and then just finish it off by hand like this. It gives you the most control and really will prevent the over whipping and curdling. Plop your whipped cream right in. The whipped cream is gonna cover and protect the pudding, so let's just use a spatula and move it all the way to the edge. And you can swoop the top up a bit. It's basically a beautiful whipped cream mountain, my favorite kind. Our finishing step is a sprinkle of chopped chocolate or whatever garnish you're gonna use. Give your mud pie a slice, and just like that, it's ready to enjoy. These mud pies go pretty quick, but you can always wrap it up and keep it in the fridge for up to 4 days, or wrap tightly and freeze for up to 2 months and then thaw overnight in the fridge. You can also wrap and freeze individual pieces for a personalized snack. The layers are silky, but this whipped cream on top really lightens it up. It's so funny. I hope you get a chance to make this delicious mud pie, and if you like my videos, hit that subscribe button and check out my chocolate playlist.